you guys. How are you? You guys, today I need about 5 to 10 minutes of your time so that I can help you guys understand just a little bit more about your credit scores. You guys, when it comes to your credit scores, I am always asked, like, why did I look on Credit Karma or Smart Credit and my credit scores say one thing, but when I go and apply, they say something else? Or you guys may be like, okay, why is Equifax or why is Experience saying one thing and Credit Karma saying another thing? Like, which credit score is correct? So, you guys, if you have any questions about your credit scores, by the time you finish watching this video all the way to the end, you should fully understand your credit scores. Okay, you guys? And I want you to look at my screen so that I can go back and forth while I am talking to you guys to make sure you fully understand what I'm trying to say. Okay. Now, you guys, first things first, I want you to know that when it comes to our credit scores, you guys, we have different types of credit scores. Okay. We have different models. We have multiple credit scores. Okay. Right now, if you can see it, I am on my FICO's website. And you guys may be saying, well, who is my FICO? You guys, long story short, your FICO scores, the scores that are mostly used in the industry, especially when you are applying for credit. You guys, these credit scores were created over 30 years ago. Okay. FICO stands for the Fair Isaac Corporation, which is actually Fair Isaac is actually the names of the two guys who actually created the algorithm for the FICO credit scores. Okay, you guys, I want to make sure you pumped up too. Okay, get pumped up with me, because this may be a little boring to you guys. Now, it's not boring to me, but it may get boring to you guys. So I'm gonna try to talk with a lot of pep in my voice and, just try to make it as interesting as possible, you guys, because I mean, I want you guys to get this. I promise you guys, when I learned about my credit, it changed my life. Okay. Now, so that's what we're going to be looking at, our FICO scores. These are the first scores that were created. Now, we're also going to be looking at what's called our Vantage scores. And if you can see my screen, you can see here the next thing that I'm fixing to click on, it's gonna say FICO scores versus credit scores. Okay. FICO scores versus credit scores. And you guys, my name is Jennifer Campbell. I am the CEO and founder of the Credit Laboratory. And it is my pleasure to present you guys with this presentation today. You guys, I want you to not only just listen and trust or believe what I say, that's why I am providing you with the information where I learned it from. So, so that you can see it. Okay. All right, you guys. It is my passion to help you guys. Okay. I started the Credit Laboratory back in 2019. We got incorporated with the state, or I'll say legally established in 2019. And it is my goal to help you reach your credit goals. And in order for you to reach your credit goals, the first thing that you really need to do is understand the history of credit. And you guys, that's with anything. If you want to understand anything, you need to understand the history of it. Okay. So we need to understand the history of credit scores. How do they come about? How are they calculated? Okay. We need to study it in order, to understand, or at least read up on it. Leave the studying to me. Okay. Now, if you can see here, it does say FICO scores versus credit scores. Okay. And it's saying what's the difference. And here it can show you, it's giving you some of the differences. Now, I'm not going to be reading this word for word to you guys because I just want you guys to get the basic understanding. You can go to the website here at myfico.com and go to credit education to get this information and go into the credit scores. Okay, because this is full of information, you guys. But when it comes to our FICO scores, and they're calling it our credit scores, but they're basically referring to our Vantage scores. Those scores are calculated differently because they are created by two different entities. And remember, most lenders are going to be using our FICO scores. When it comes to our regular credit scores or our regular Vantage scores, you guys, those scores should only be used for educational purposes only. And you don't understand right now when I'm saying my FICO scores or your Vantage scores, but you guys, I promise you, just hang tight, hang with me. By the end of this, you're going to completely understand. Okay. At least you're going to understand why your credit scores are different. Now, if you want me to break down more stuff about your credit scores, like how your credit scores are calculated, different things of that nature, things that you can do to increase your credit scores, you're going to have to let me know that, and I'll make an individual video specifically for that topic. Okay. But today's topic is strictly on credit scores, and not just credit scores, because we're not going to be talking about how credit scores are calculated. We're going to be talking about why our credit scores are different, or why are there different versions of our credit scores, to help you guys better understand why the scores that you may see on Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, or on your banking app may be different than the scores that a lender may give you when you apply for something. Okay. So we do have two different scoring models. Okay. We have our FICO scores and we have our Vantage scores. Okay. And now I can understand why this website did not use the Vantage on their website, saying Vantage scores, and they just said credit scores. Okay. Now, what I do need you guys to understand when it comes to FICO scores, and remember, you guys, FICO scores are the scores that our lenders are going to be using. So, with these scores, I want you to see all of the different FICO scores that we have. And these are all of the different FICO scores that we have. Okay? If you see, it says Experian. The most widely used ones, Equifax and TransUnion. You see, we got a FICO 9 and we have a FICO 8. If you go on down, you see it says versions used in auto lending. Okay? We got our FICO Auto 9, our FICO Auto 8, and our FICO Auto 2, 5, and 4. So that's at least what, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 different auto scores there. 2 different widely used versions. And then if we come on down to versions used in credit card processing, credit card decisioning, you can see we got a bank score 9, a bank score 8, a FICO score 3, a bank card score 2, a bank card score 5, a bank card score 4. When it comes to a mortgage, getting a home, you see we got a FICO 2, we got a FICO 5, we got a FICO 4. We come on down to newly released versions. You guys, you can see we got a FICO 10. We have a FICO Auto Score 10. We have a FICO Bank Card Score 10. And we have a FICO Score 10T. That 10T is for trending. I'm not going to get into that too much for you guys. Not today. That's going to be some advanced information on credit scores there. Okay, now you guys, you see, those are all the different credit scores. So when you're applying for an auto loan, they may use those scores. When you're applying for a credit card, they may use those scores. When you're applying for a mortgage, they may use your mortgage lending scores. When you're applying for a loan, they may be using your FICO 8 or your FICO 9 scores. It's just going to depend on the institution and which version they're going to be using. Okay, which version they're going to be using. And remember, you guys, these are our FICO scores. And before we move on to Vantage scores, I just want to click here because it says new FICO scores. You guys, if you can see, they're going to be trying to introduce an ultra FICO score. The ultra FICO score is a new type of FICO score that may benefit people with a lower credit score, they say. Okay, so we're going to see We're going to see. The last ones that they were talking about were the FICO TNT and the FICO TNT, the T for trending. But this ultra FICO score, this is something that's a new one. See FICO TNT for trended credit data. That normally it would, with the trending data, basically, no, we're not getting into that because I don't want to confuse you. But just an example, okay, with the trending data, you guys, say like if I tell you guys, okay, you guys, if your credit cards are over the limit, and I say, hey, I need you to pay your credit card down under 10% of your credit card limit because we know that that's gonna make your credit scores jump 50 to 100 points. Okay, with this FICO score 10T, that 10T trending, that won't work. Like when I say go pay your credit scores down, because they'll be looking at an average of your 2 years. They'll be looking at trended data instead. So we wouldn't be able to get that quick increase if a lender was using that FICO score TNT. Now, I hope that that makes sense. And I hope you guys, can understand that because I tried to do my best with that. But it would be trending. They would be looking at a longer time frame. They'll be looking at 24 months. Okay. They'll like to see what your trend is, what you normally do. So paying it down or paying that credit card down, that wouldn't help us. That little credit hack that we've been using to get a 50 to 100 point increase if our credit cards are maxed out or over that 10% threshold, we wouldn't be able to do that if a lender was using that score model, or our scores would not increase if they were using that score model, or on that score model, our scores would not increase at all. Okay. Now, you guys, those are our FICO scores. And remember, we have all of those different versions. Okay. FICO scores, these were the first scores that were created by Fair Isaac. Okay. Now, let's move on to our Vantage scores. Now, you guys, when it comes to these Vantage scores, and remember, I told you FICO scores, the algorithm was created by the two guys, Fair and Isaac. They created that. Okay. Vantage scores, and remember, they created those scores like 25, 30 years ago. Vantage scores, you guys, these scores were created after FICO scores. These scores were created by the credit bureaus, by Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion to be exact, because you guys, there are hundreds of consumer reporting agencies out there. But Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion are known as the big three. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and Innovis is known as the big four. Okay. We're going to get more into consumer reporting agencies as well. Okay, you guys. But these are our Vantage scores. Vantage scores are created, were, cre- were created by Equifax Experian and TransUnion. Now, I used to could see that and I could go and show you some of the history. I didn't see that on their website. But the most important thing that I want you guys to see is their different models. You can see they got them, and their different models have changed, you guys, because the last time I did research on Vantage scores, it was showing on their website, it was showing Vantage score 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0. Now it's showing their models as their most used model, their Vantage score 4.0, Vantage score 4 plus, Vantage score 5.0, Vantage score 4.0, Vantage score 3.0. And remember, they're calculated differently. Our credit scores, they're calculated differently. That's why, that's the difference between the Vantage scores and the FICO scores. Our FICO scores are calculated in 5 different categories. Our Vantage scores are actually calculated in 6 different categories. And the categories are different for each model. Okay. So if you can see with the FICO scores, we have a lot of those. And then if we come over here to our Vantage scores, they're showing us they have at least 5 models: 4.0, 4 plus, 5.0, 5.0 attributes, and 3.0. Remember, we have different models when it comes to our credit scores. So that's why if you look on Credit Karma or another website, a third party website, any website, and then you go and any website except myfico.com, because that is the only place that you can actually get your scores that your lender will be, that your lender will be using, depending on where you're going. All of those credit scores that we just looked at, or all of those versions that we just looked at on my FICO's website, they provide you with all of those scores on their website. When I applied for my home, I was actually using my FICO for my credit monitoring. And as soon as my credit score, my middle mortgage score, as soon as it went to a 660, as soon as I got the alert and I looked at my FICO and my credit score said 660, I applied for my house. Okay? And I was approved. And those were the scores that the lender saw, what was on my FICO. So I know those scores are accurate from myself and, from using it myself and knowing that my FICO, that website, those are actually the people who created credit scores. And those are the scores that lenders are using. Okay. Now, the next question, and we're going to combine these questions as well in just a moment. Now, one of the other questions that I always get is, if you look on Experian and Experian says one thing, and then you look on Credit Karma and your TransUnion, your Equifax credit score say something else, then you're like, which credit score is correct? Which one is right? You guys, all of them are right. Basically, is they aren't wrong. Okay, all of them are right. Okay, and when I say right, I'm not saying the information that's included on those credit reports, but to answer your question, they are correct. TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, all of those credit scores or all of those credit reports will show differently. And you guys, they're going to show differently because all of those credit reports contain different information. And you guys, whether you know it or not, 80% of credit scores contain error. 80% of consumer credit scores contains error. Now, this list that you see here on the screen now, these are just a handful of the consumer reporting agencies, other places where our credit reports can be pulled or looked at, our consumer reports, other places where we may have a credit score. So we got TransUnion, Experian, Equifax, SageScreen, ARS, Clarity Service, Innovis, and so on and so on. LexisNexis, so on and so on. And all of these reports, you guys, are usually different, and they usually entail of different information. And if you guys want a breakdown on consumer reporting agencies, better known as credit bureaus, let me know, because you guys, they're actually not credit bureaus, they are consumer reporting agencies. Credit bureaus is a name that they gave themselves, and I think they did it just to add the word bureau to their name to sound more scary or to sound more federal, or like they were a federal entity or something to scare people, which it does very well. Okay. They are not a credit bureau. Okay. They are consumer reporting agencies. Now, we call them credit bureaus because that's what they're better known as over the years. But understand, they are not a federal entity. They had to abide by the laws like everybody else. Okay. Now, when it comes to your credit scores, you guys, most of the time, it's just going to be the big three. The big three will be what you see. Okay. When it comes to your credit scores, I want you guys to understand. Remember, lenders will be looking at FICO scores, our FICO scores, a different version of it. And our Vantage scores are just for educational purposes only. And in order to tell what score you're looking at, it doesn't matter where you're looking at your credit score at. Somewhere above or beneath it, it should tell you which scoring model they're using. And if you see here, this credit report, it says they're using Vantage Score 3.0. Vantage Scores 3.0 at the top in the blue. It says Vantage Scores 3.0. So these are the Vantage scores. These are for educational purposes only. So if you apply for a car and you get your credit pulled, your scores may be higher or they may be lower than what we see here. We don't know because they're going to be using a different version, a different model. They're going to be using your FICO scoring model. They're not going to be using your Vantage scores, your Vantage 3.0. A lender isn't going to be using these scores. See Vantage 3.0 at the top? Okay. Now, this is experience. If you look at your experience score, okay, if you can see down at the bottom, it says scores calculated using FICO score 8. Okay. This is from Experience website. That is the score they are showing you, your FICO score 8. Remember that FICO score 9 and FICO score 8 are two of the most widely used versions of that FICO score. But if you go to apply for a home, a car, or a credit card, that may not be your score because remember, they have their own version. Okay? So the version that we're seeing here is our FICO score 8. And it's on the bottom, above or below it to see which score you are actually viewing. And you can see there, those say FICO 8 scores for experience. Okay? Now, this is off of Equifax's website. Okay? This is off of Equifax's website, you guys. If you can see under this credit score here, it says Vantage score 3.0. A Vantage score 3.0. Equifax is not even giving you your FICO scores. They're not even giving you any version of your FICO scores. They're giving you your Vantage score 3.0, the scores that Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion created in order to compete with the FICO scores. Because you guys, yes, they make money off of this, off of our credit scores and the algorithm. Okay? That's why there's a fee when we access our credit reports ourselves. Now, when a lender accesses your credit reports, they pay that fee. Okay? But if you can see up under there, it says Vantage Score 3.0. These are credit scores from Credit Karma. If you see here, it says Vantage Score 3.0. Vantage Score 3.0. What does that mean? These are for educational purposes only. When you go to a lender to get your credit pulled, these will not be the scores that they're using because it says a Vantage Score 3.0. Remember, lenders are normally using our FICO credit scores. Okay? Okay, you guys. Now, I hope that helped you to understand why your credit scores may be different when you go to a lender from what you may see online with a credit monitoring website, even Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. If you would like to get access to the scores that a lender will be using, you need to go to myfico.com in order to access those. And I'll put a link for the FICO scores underneath this video. Okay? Now, you should understand we have different models of our credit scores, that we have different companies, different consumer reporting agencies collecting our information and grading us. Okay? That's why those scores are different. Now, you guys, if you do still have a question about your credit scores and why they are different online than when you go apply for something, please, please, please let me know. Other than that, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something. If you learned something, do not forget to give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you're following us and go consume some more of our content. Until next time.